What's up, everybody? It's Irvin the Tat Man coming at you from Chicago, Illinois, 3527 South Halsted Street. Stay Lucky Tattoo. So, what this video is about? How to find an apprenticeship. This is by no means like a guaranteed way to find an apprenticeship. This is basically how I found mine. I'm just gonna talk about the apprenticeships I had, and how I ultimately became a tattoo artist. This is basically just to help out anybody to see, whoever's looking to get into it and doesn't even know where to start. So hopefully this video helps. All right, so let's get started. My very first apprenticeship, how I went about that. Basically, this was around 2013 or so. I was like about 22 years old. And so I had a couple drawings already made. I had a little bit of a portfolio, nothing too impressive, some black and white graphite, black and gray graphite drawings, that I made during, in high school, and just some things that I made afterwards. So I took those, and then I just went around to all the tattoo shops in the neighborhood. The ones that were nearby, some a little closer, some were like kind of had some ways away. And, I'd go into every shop with a purpose, I'd go in, have my portfolio at hand. Always gotta be ready with your portfolio, because if not, then you're not, then what else are you doing, You gotta have a purpose. And you gotta be serious, And so, I just go to the shops, ask, are they looking to hire an apprentice? And offer them to show them my portfolio, because that's what they need. Back in the day, there was no Instagram at that time, so you had to have an actual portfolio. Some people nowadays don't even know what that's about. I think it's important. And so I went place to place, different shops, until got rejected many times. But you could probably get to like 10 tattoo shops in one day. It's just like looking for a job, looking for an apprenticeship. It's nothing to be taken lightly, because it's ultimately going to be your career. So, you kind of want to make a decent impression, And so, like I said, so I was going from shop to shop, and, a lot of places were saying no, until I found a spot that offered an apprenticeship. This apprenticeship they offered me this apprenticeship at $3,000. It was at $3,000 cost, and it was a 4-month contract. Now, I already knew beforehand to preferably find an apprenticeship that didn't charge anything. Some places will let you work for free, with just with you working back there and cleaning up the shop and all that, and I actually had an apprenticeship like that as well, and I'm gonna get into that too. But this first apprenticeship, I was desperate. I just wanted to get my foot in the door, and this was the first opportunity. After like a lot of shops said no, this one place said that they'd hire me or give me an apprenticeship at $3,000, and so I took it. And because like I said, I needed to at least get into a shop and understand, roughly the ins and outs. Get to understand what the lifestyle's like, what the career is like. And my first apprenticeship was really good. It wasn't just 4 months though. I was there. I definitely stayed there for at least a year. I simply stayed. Simply stayed until I no longer felt welcome, to be quite honest. It's really what I did. I figured I was just gonna get my money's worth. They weren't telling me to leave, so I just kept going. And it was cool. I got a lot out of it. I didn't become a tattoo artist then, because I guess I still needed a lot to learn. But when I was there, they had me basically just looking over their shoulder and just watching. I learned a lot on like how to talk to people, how to talk to clients, how to sell a tattoo. The guy I was working with under he was very successful. He definitely had a lot of clients, and his kids worked there. His son worked as a tattoo artist, and he had another son that was doing piercings there. And it was a good business. I was happy to be there. It was I would do that on my days off. I was working odd jobs at like Portillo's hot dogs, and then I was over there on the weekends. I had it set up so that I would get the weekends off, and I'd go there. And yeah, so like I would learn to talk to. I was just watching the tattoo artist the whole time, everything he did. Like he'd get there, he didn't have me cleaning. Which there was more apprentices that worked there at one point, and there was some guys that had like a little more initiative. I was kind of a young buck at the time, so another apprentice comes in the scene, and this fella just like served like, I think he said like 5 years in the joint, and he was hungry. He was like, I think he was in his 30s, and so he was kind of taking this apprenticeship a little more aggressively, and I didn't know that was a way to do it. Like I'd get there, and like I'd just sit there sometimes, wait till something needed to happen. But this guy would show up, and he'd start taking out the trash, and getting the shop right, and then he would be bringing in his own clients to tattoo them, because that's what this apprenticeship wanted from me, to bring my clients and to tattoo them under their like supervision. But unfortunately, I was too timid, way too timid. So they had me tattooing grapefruits. That's how I started to get the hang of it over there. Like if in my downtime, I just grab a grapefruit, set up, and just tattoo it. Tattooing circles after circles, because their philosophy was to learn to tattoo, you have to tattoo all the time, because like they kind of like, and it wasn't like I needed to like learn to draw more. They kind of looked at it like they were impressed with my portfolio that I had. And they didn't really look at it like I needed to learn more of that. It was more just kind of like, now just, you already know how to draw and shade. Based on what they saw, they figured that from my portfolios, from my drawings. So they said like, you had to just focus on like, using the machine, holding the machine, learning to pull lines with it. And that approach might be really good for some, but it wasn't it didn't work out for me so much, because like I still had a lot of questions. I would, I wouldn't struggle to put the ink in on the grapefruit, but when it came to like tattooing people, it wasn't the same thing for me. My lines weren't the cleanest, even though they encouraged me to tattoo people. It was about like, bring people in, and you're gonna get the hang of it little by little, gain confidence, tattoo after tattoo. But like I said, I was too timid, so I couldn't like, get that flowing right. Like I said, like I mentioned, the other apprentice, he had some experience under his belt. Like I said, I think he had been tattooing in the Slammer for some time. And like I said, he was in his like 30s, so he was a little more driven than me. I'll admit that. And he actually like tapered off. He started doing tats really fast. He was bringing in his clients. He started tattooing like the guys there, like the piercer. I remember he tattooed the piercer, and I was like, wow, I was impressed. I was like, wow, he's way ahead of me. And it was a little bit discouraging, but it was an eye opener at the same time. And so he eventually like went his own way. He left his training wheels rather fast, and he left the shop. Maybe he realized he was just gonna be better off doing it at home. I think that was the route he decided to take. Maybe he felt like he wasn't getting what he wanted out of that shop. To each their own. I don't exactly know what he ended up doing, but he left the shop. And that was my first apprenticeship. I stopped going there after a year because I kind of like realized that, I kind of needed to leave. Like I said earlier, the apprenticeship was 4 months. I had overstayed my welcome. They never kicked me out, but I could tell I kind of had to go. So I just left. I left. And so I took my knowledge, and I kept doing it at home. Like, I just kept at it with the grapefruits, kept practicing. They told me to continue just to always practice, and that'd be the way I learned to get, that's how I'd get good. I watched a lot of tattooing, plenty of tattooing. I got a lot of shop experience, and that was very valuable to me, because like, I just wanted to be in the shop. And then I got my first taste of like what it is to be a shop, what it's like to be in a shop, and like what goes on there, And that was really good experience. I learned how to sell, because the fella was successful, and he knew how to talk. He knew how to talk to people, and he'd get them in, and he did good work. So like people would come back, and yeah. So I was like, all right, that's it gives you a taste for what the business is like. It gave me a taste for what the business was like, and I definitely wanted to continue pursuing it. So like I said, I started doing it at home, and slowly but surely started tattooing more and more people, like my friends, family that was willing to sacrifice some flesh. And I continued doing that for some time. And then I was living in Illinois at the time, and then I had an opportunity to move over to Philadelphia. Moved to Philadelphia for some time, I had a little opportunity where I'd be like living rent free. So I jumped on it. I was gonna be living rent free with a family member, and so I took it. And while I was there, I continued working as working at my tattooing, and I was working odd jobs again. I was working odd jobs, like I was doing like a little part-time bussing. I was doing some dog walking in the condominium apartment I was living in. And then I was also, the condominium was really nice, it was pretty sweet. So I was given a room, and I was given permission to actually tattoo out of there, which was super fortunate for me. So I had like all these little things going. I was tattooing people occasionally, because I didn't have great clientele, because I wasn't good. And then I was working part-time as like, in my other jobs. But I wanted to be a full-time tattoo artist. And I thought I deserved to be a full-time tattoo artist, because I had an apprenticeship under my belt. But my portfolio sucked. And I had no experience. Some people can pick it up quick, but I sure didn't. I definitely did not pick it up fast. I kept at it. I learned with coil machines. And for those that have started using coil machines are just a little bit, can be finicky, especially if you don't know how to tune the machine. So, I'd struggle a lot, getting the machine to run right, hit the skin properly, saturating. I had a lot of questions still. My tattoos were not looking professional. And so one day I was like, I was looking for a job. Like I said, I thought I deserved to be a tattoo artist at this point. I thought I had, earned my stripes. So, the little portfolio that I had acquired of tattoos, the few people that I had tattooed, I built a little portfolio. And so then I took that to the shops around town looking for a job. I'd be looking on Craigslist, seeing where they're hiring, and I'd go. At the time I was living in Philly, like I said, so sometimes I'd check out some shops in Philadelphia, no luck. Sometimes there'd be some availability. Some people were looking to hire in New Jersey, which was like a stone throws away. Cost me $5 to get over the bridge every time, which wouldn't have been a problem if I was actually making money. But what I'm getting at is, I looked for a job and didn't find one. Rightfully so. Shouldn't have been working at a shop with that kind of portfolio. And I became frustrated, and I had to come to the terms that I needed another apprenticeship. I needed to be humble and accept the facts that I sucked. I didn't learn enough yet. I haven't learned enough yet. So it's time to go back to square one and find another apprenticeship. And so I did that again. I gathered my portfolio, put my portfolio together, and looked around in the area, outside the area. Some places were like looking for an apprenticeship at like towns that were like hours away, whatever. and so I'd go, but like I'd go to places in Philadelphia. There was plenty of places to plenty of tattoo shops out in Philadelphia. I even looked to get into apprenticeships over in the Philadelphia Eddies, the world famous Philadelphia Eddies. I had no idea I was looking for a job at the world famous Philadelphia Eddies, but yes, I was, and I'm proud to say there's a bunch of tattoo shops out on South Street in Philly, and there's like a Philadelphia Eddies right next to another Philadelphia Eddies, which is pretty dope. I walk in and I'm asking for an apprenticeship, and the fella like never looked up at me. He was just like dealing with some tubes and whatnot, and he just basically said, he's like, yeah man, I'm the last guy to get hired here, and that was 10 years ago. And I was like, whoa, damn, okay, let me take my drawings out of here and try the next shop. And then I just tried all those shops, no luck. And yeah, so I wasn't having any luck with that. Kept tattooing out the house. And then one day I was given a chance to go to Vegas for vacation. Cousin of mine got married out there, and I was given a ticket. I guess somebody bailed on the trip, so there was an opening. I jumped on it. What else am I doing? Just hanging out. Well, I was trying to get things done, but I had a lot of downtime. So I go to Vegas, and I'm out there, and for shits and giggles, I think about what it'd be like to search for an apprenticeship out here, just for fun. And I go on Craigslist. That's how I was doing it in Philly, and that's kind of like the way I had gotten used to looking for jobs. So I looked up tattoo apprenticeships on Craigslist, and to my luck, there was a place that was like looking for an apprentice. And I went and checked it out. And I talked to the fella, and he explained to me, like, yeah, this job consists of cleaning the shop, maintaining the shop, taking care of the clients, taking care of the tattooers' payments, and, the taking the money and everything like that, and just kind of like helping it stay, keeping the machine oiled, and I see the tattoo he's doing, and I was really intrigued. I'm like, oh, he was doing like a traditional R2D2. I was like, oh, that looks fun, man. I'm like, oh, that looks good. I liked his energy when I met him. It came off like very straightforward, very to the point, and so I was like, hey man, this sounds perfect to me. I would love to be an apprentice. And another thing he mentioned, he's like, this apprenticeship, like. This apprenticeship is like not, he kind of let me know that it's not to be taken lightly, and people come and go here, like you can, there is no guarantee that you'll become an artist, and there's also no guarantee that we'll hold on to you, assuming, you're not cut out for it. It was very easy to get fired there, but I should backtrack for a second. I called him when I saw the ad on Craigslist. I called him up. And so he asked me, he's like, hey man, so what time can you make it out here? I'm going to be here till 5. And I tell him, I'm like, okay, well, you know what? I need to get a cab. And it was probably like 4:45 or something, maybe 30 minutes to 5. I knew it was cutting it close. And I was like, hey man, I'm going to get a cab. And so, I can probably get there by 5, I tell him. And then he instantly cuts me off, and he's like, you know what? He's like, you know what, man? If you're gonna be late, that's a good way to get fired before you're even hired. Okay, so if you're not gonna make it by 5, don't waste my time. Can you come tomorrow instead? I'm gonna be here again at from 9 to 5. I'm like, perfect. Yeah, you know what? Let's do it tomorrow then. He's like, all right, see you then. Hangs up the phone. Short and sweet conversation. Conversation wasn't that long. And I was like, all right, yeah, let's go. And so then I met him, and all that I mentioned earlier transpired. And I was captivated because I was like, okay, like this it just seemed very serious. And so then when I was, telling him, I'm like, I'd love the job. But then I tell him, I'm like, hey, I'm actually not living here. I'm actually on vacation here from Philadelphia, but I would really like this opportunity. And if you say that you have a job for me, I'll be here within within like 3 weeks time. 2 weeks while I get back to Philadelphia and give him my 2 weeks notice that I'm leaving, and then the time that it'll take me to drive back out here to Vegas. And he said, all right, if you come back out here within like that time, I'll have a job for you. And I was like, wow, magnificent. And then that was it, like no contract or anything. It was just his word. And I believed him. So I head back to Philadelphia, go to my first day. I'm back at the bus at my busboy job. And then, they're asking like, hey, Irv, my manager's like, hey, Irv, how was it, man? You back from Vegas. How'd you like it? And I'm like, well, you know what? I loved it. It was a lot of fun. And I've also found an apprenticeship there. So I'm also here to tell you that I'm putting in my 2 weeks. I'm going to Vegas. And they were like, all right, right on. Cool. I mean, no skin off their back or however that goes. So then the 2 weeks go by, and I pack it up and I drive out to Vegas in my Nissan Altima and my dog Luna, rest in peace. And we traveled to Vegas. Probably took like about a week. I can't recall exactly, but there was like sometimes sleeping in my car. Sometimes I'd get a hotel. I wasn't saying I was sleeping in the car all the time, but it was a slow journey down there. And I left. Was it in the winter? No, this was I think in the summertime. It was gonna get to be about. It was like in April or so. And yeah, so we drove out to Vegas. No like real plan besides having that apprenticeship. And when I got to Vegas, I had already like got some I already had some help with finding a studio apartment by the time I got there. And I got really lucky because I was able to get there without, I didn't have any sort of like, they needed like job, like for me to have a job and maybe like some other little details, some other things in order to get like an apartment there. But I was able to pull some strings and I got an apartment like ASAP. And then like the next day, I go over to the tattoo shop and I show up. I'm like, hey, I'm here, and I was given a job. I was given a job right away. They were like, yeah, like true to his word. The man hires me, and he and I start working as a tattoo apprenticeship. I start working as a tattoo apprentice, and the job was a 9 to 5. I got there at 9:30, and it was till like 5:30. And it was full time, like I'd be there the whole time the tattoo artists were there. And then then the hunt for another job started, and I looked around, and I was able to find a jobs working at a pizzeria as a delivery guy. And I was working that. I was able to get two delivery jobs, one at Papa John's and one at Round Table. And then I was working as a tattoo apprentice also, which was a whole job in itself. And it was pretty cutthroat because, like I said, you couldn't be late a lot. You couldn't mess up the money, obviously, and you had to like, you had to earn your keep. You had to really show that you were like committed, and that you would ultimately become a part of the team. Ultimately, like all these things, and I gotta say, and so this is how my second apprenticeship began. And I'm very, very fortunate to have this one under my belt. It was a classic to me. I mean, I don't know much about it, but it was classic style, I think. It was a traditional apprenticeship. They had me, cleaning the shop, taking care of like the artist's needs. If they wanted food, I'd go get them food. If they needed their tubes scrubbed, I had to scrub their tubes all the time. Their tubes had to be scrubbed. So like ASAP. Like if they don't have tubes, they can't work. That's your ass. And I loved it, as cutthroat as it was. I loved it because I've kind of been used to kind of a grueling environment already, but that's for another story. A lot of people, and like the fella mentioned when I got hired, that a lot of people come and go. You can get easily fired at that place. And sure enough, there was a lot of people that came and left. It's funny. Like I got, when I showed up for the apprenticeship, and he's like, "Oh, you're here, good, because there's a fella I need to get rid of, so you're gonna take his shift," and I was like, "All right, well, hey, let's go." No, I lied. He didn't have to fire a man. An apprentice had just recently quit, and he was just like, "Perfect, like you're here, perfect, blessing." So I got in at the perfect time. And in this apprenticeship, like I was saying, in this apprenticeship, they had me doing all these things that I was really excited to do, which was take care of the shop. And just watch watch the tattooers, everything they did. And I had to set up, and I had a breakdown for them, not set them up. No, yeah, I had to set up and break down the station. Also, another thing I was very, very excited to do, because I didn't do that kind of stuff in my first apprenticeship. In my first apprenticeship, like, since I paid $3,000 for it, and it was like up to 4-month contract style, the man wasn't asking of me to clean his place and to set him up and to break him down. They weren't asking for that. They kind of just wanted me to like tattoo. So I didn't learn a lot of little ins and outs, which I was, I wanted to, but I was able to get that in my second apprenticeship. I learned a lot of the ins and outs. I was, always asking questions, and this shop was a traditional shop. At least the owner or the manager was a traditional guy, so it had a lot of traditional influence. But not every employee there was traditional. Fortunately, because of that, I learned a lot of styles. I learned like realism, black and gray there. I knew some guys that were like heavy into the Japanese, all sorts of things, and I learned traditional, and I also learned about painting, a big thing on painting. I learned how to paint flash, or learning about painting flash. I was told in my apprenticeship, I was told to paint everything before I tattooed it. And so now I'm getting to the part where like how I started to tattoo at this apprenticeship. After being there, after a time and watching enough, and if you were like believing that you were ready to tattoo flesh, you would have to tattoo yourself first. And a lot of people had to tattoo themselves like a rose on their knee or on their thigh, somewhere accessible. And that was kind of like a rite of passage to like start tattooing people. You had to do that. But I didn't do that, because I didn't have to jump that hurdle, because I was already tattooed up. I had already tattooed myself up plenty. I had done my hand. I had messed up this eyeball. I don't know if the camera shows. I had done this eyeball before it was fixed. This is the fixed version of it, but I had janked this up myself. I made a jaguar on my wrist, and I tattooed my thigh plenty. Tattooed the top of my thigh plenty. So I didn't have to like do any of that rose on myself. I didn't have to tattoo myself then to like start tattooing people. And so the way I would get clients was by making Craigslist ads. That's how I just throw an ad on there: free tattoos plus tip, tattoo apprentice, working out of a tattoo shop with mentors. So it was a very enticing deal for people. Very enticing, and people came in like this, ASAP, looking for a tattoo. I had no problems finding people like that. And that was, then I started getting the ball rolling. But also, sometimes people would hit me with a lot of random things. People wanted like a lot of things that I wasn't necessarily ready for. And, I had to learn the hard way. Some tattoos just didn't come out great. My mentors would kind of like, get on my ass about it. So then that's when they started to implement that I had to like paint everything before I tattooed it. And that was a lot of fun, actually. That I enjoyed plenty. I'd paint like a traditional, like if somebody wanted, like, let's say a panther, I'd have to paint it on watercolor. And then I was given I was allowed to tattoo someone. And it was a great way to learn, because like when you paint it, you kind of get the gist for it. It's not the easiest thing to do. So you kind of get an idea of like how it's going to be when you tattoo the flesh. I remember I was going to do a Black Panther, and it took me forever to paint it. It took like 4 hours, I think, or almost all day. And then my mentor was like, hey man, so now you know how much, you kind of got an idea like how much work it's going to be like to tattoo it. And sure enough, that thing took me all night. Came out really good though. And I'm really proud of that one. In fact, I think that panther is still on my Instagram to this day. Anyways, and that's just how it kept going. You know, I just kept bringing in people. Mind you this, I'm still working odd jobs, and now I'm bringing in people, and it's just starting to get the ball rolling. And slowly but surely, my tattoos are looking better and better and better and better, until they're just like, you know, they're tattoo shop quality. And one day I get off of my first gig, and I get to work, and then the man that had hired me in the very beginning is waiting there, and he's just basically saying like, hey Irvin, a spot opened up. I'm moving so and so from the graveyard shift to the night shift, and we have a graveyard shift available. It's yours. And I was like, that was absolutely one of the greatest days of my life. One of them. And so it was really cool, because in Vegas, in order to get a tattoo during a tattoo apprenticeship, you had to go to the health department and get a body art like card. Like you had to pass like the bloodborne test and other things. It wasn't just the bloodborne test. And you got this paper, and it had like a certain amount of hours that you had to be in the shop. So it also required like a licensed tattoo shop. The owner would be the one responsible for giving you would be responsible for signing off on this paper that you would take to the health department, and that health department would ultimately give you your body art card. And that's why in Vegas, when I became a tattoo artist, I got signed off as a tattoo artist, because like once the day came, I had put in the work, a spot opened up, and they're like, where's that paper from the health department? Let me sign it. Take that to the health department, get your body art card. You're on shift tomorrow. Something like that. It was very fast. Man, I jumped for joy. And the quest to become a tattoo artist, I had finally obtained it. And my goodness, very emotional, very wonderful feeling. And everything after that was murder, she wrote. Like everything after that is history. From that point on, the career as a tattoo artist began. And that's where I am currently at now. That was back in 2017. And so yeah, that's basically it. How I found my tattoo apprenticeships. That's maybe this can help out somebody find an apprenticeship. Maybe this can help you maybe learn to know what to expect out of an apprenticeship. Yeah, you know. Hope this helped, guys. Thank you for watching. Peace.